the youth delegates on behalf of the co-convenors of the APFSD Youth Forum and the Asia and the Pacific Regional ECOSOC Youth Forum 2022. The co-convenors of this forum are Asian Pacific Resource and Research Center for Women, YouthLead and Y-PEER Asia Pacific. The theme for this youth forum is Building Back Better from COVID-19 while advancing the full implementation of 2030 agenda in the Asia Pacific region with young people at the forefront. The co-conveners have been organizing this youth forum since 2017, and we are ensuring young people have a dedicated space to discuss and dialogue and contribute to the implementation of the 2030 agenda with a regional as well as a youth lens. Over the next 3 days, you will all be discussing key areas, and this include building back better from COVID-19, quality education and gender equality, and climate action for sustainable present and future, including sustainable partnerships. Today, we will be having about 600 registered participants, and almost 500 other participants will be joining us via Facebook. And we have also informed you that there is a color code campaign, and today's color is blue, and we see many of you in blue. Blue signifies that we are all here for a peaceful and a just society, and that will lead us to sustainable development. Since this is a very large gathering, we will not have time for introduction of each one of you. And what we suggest is you kindly write down your name, your country, and your organization in the chat. My name is Sai, and I am from Arrow. And together with Kamal, who is my co-moderator, we are doing this welcome session. And without much ado, what I will do is hand over to our co-moderator, Kamal Gautam, in order to brief us on the technical and the logistical update. Over to you, Kamal.
Thank you, Sai. You have, as you may have already seen this slide, which we sent you a few days ahead. This is a virtual tool guide and logistic note. Let me quickly go through it. So, like we will be using Zoom for entire 3 days of the forum. Next slide, Mamata. Okay, so here's a quick start guide, Zoom video meeting. Like here are some basic navigation functions. If you see in the bottom of the Zoom, you will see like there are so many options like mute, unmute, video options, reactions. So to raise your hand, click reaction and raise hand. And also please remember to lower your hand when you have already asked your question. And please mute yourself. I see a lot of noise coming in. If you are not speaking, please mute yourself. The mute button is on the left side, bottom left side. And in this forum, we have Bahasa Indonesia language interpretation support for Indonesian participants. This is only for Indonesian participants. If participants from Indonesia speak in Bahasa other than other participants, then they can go on the interpretation channel down. If you see you can see the globe option button down. Excuse me, if you are not like speaking or if you don't have any question, can you please mute yourself? We see a lot of noise coming in. Okay, so like we have Bahasa Indonesia language interpretation support for this entire youth forum. Please click on the globe link down and choose your preferred language. Next, Mamata. So we can also change name in the Zoom. Please like. Please.
That's okay.
Okay, so please go to the participants list in the bottom of the Zoom, then click it. When you click the participants, your name will appear. Please mouse over your name and click more and click rename to change your name. You can put your name and your country so that you are easily identifiable when we do all the breakout group sessions, country breakout sessions. Next, Mamata. So we have like around 19 breakout rooms. These are the breakout rooms, and these are the breakout groups. We have sub-country, we have sub-regional breakout rooms, country breakout rooms, and also within country we have like, because of the large number of like participants from some countries, we have divided that country into two groups. One is given name from A to L. If your name starts from A to L, you will join one group, and if your name starts from M to Z, then you will join another group. So these are the breakout room instructions. Next. So for breakout rooms, we have a self-select breakout room in option here. For self-select breakout room options, to enable this, you have to have your Zoom version above 5.3 so that you can easily navigate this self-select option. So just go through the breakout room. When we open the breakout rooms, it will appear as like this. If you see in the image below. So you can join a breakout room, then next slide. Then you will see these all options coming in, and choose the breakout room of your, like, if you are from, for example, East, Northeast and Central Asia, please go to this join and click join, and again click yes, and then you will be into that respective breakout room. Next, Mamata. So here are some general tips. Please test your technology before sessions. Log on 10 minutes before every day. And there is sign language interpretation. We have spotlighted the sign language interpretation, but if you want to pin the sign language interpreters in a video, you can do that. Please use the raise hand function if you have questions during the session. And also make sure you are in a comfortable and nice environment, because like this entire youth forum is like happening for like from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. Bangkok time. It's a lot. So you make sure you are in a comfortable place, and please make sure to mute your Zoom when you are not talking. This is like, we have a lot of like participants. This group is a large. So please make sure you are muted when you are not speaking. Next slide, Mamata. Here are some ground rules for or let's say agreement for the youth forum. The co-conveners are committed to making this digital youth space safe and inclusive for all. And we each of have a responsibility to ensure that youth forum is a space for safe dialogue and interactions. Please refrain from the following: unwelcome contact or threats like bullying, harassment or abuse. Also making homophobic and transphobic statements. Continued one-to-one communication after request to cease, sharing of sexually explicit or suggestive materials, messages during the youth forum. And we are also committed together to secure a safe and comfortable space for everyone. In case of any issues or concerns regarding online safety, please reach out to Youth Safeguarding Anchor Nani at nani@arrow.org.my. You can also see Nani in this forum as a participant. You can just search Nani or like Youth Safeguarding Anchor, then you can directly message to Nani. Also, please note, we don't have any official WhatsApp group or Facebook group created by the co-conveners. The co-conveners are not responsible for any social communication groups created outside of the main APFSD Youth Forum event. Next, Mamata. And we are present in social media, mostly on Twitter. You can tag your tweets with APFSD Youth 2022 and ECOSOC Youth AP 2022. These are two our official hashtags. And you can also follow co-conveners, Arrow, YouthLead and Y-PEER. The handles are in your screen. And also like at the end of maybe at like before closing the session, we will have some social media action points that my friend Farah will share. Next. So yeah, that's all. And over to you, Sai.
Thank you, Kamal. So we understand that you are aware of all the instructions that have been given. If you have any questions, you can also chat with Kamal in order to have further idea about any questions that you have. So without much ado, again, we will just get into the welcome, and I invite our Executive Director, Sivananthi Thanenthiran, to provide the welcome remarks. Siva leads the Asian Pacific Resource and Research Center for Women, ARROW, and we are a regional women's organization working on gender equality, sexual and reproductive health and rights with women, young people, non-binary persons, marginalized communities, and we have been working since 1993. So over to you, Siva.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, wherever you are in the region. Dear adolescents and young people, resource persons, experts, and colleagues from the Asia and the Pacific region. It is my great pleasure to welcome all of you to the APFSD Youth Forum and the Regional ECOSOC Youth Forum 2022. The ARROW and the Asia Pacific Regional CSO Engagement Mechanism, APRSM's youth constituencies, coordinated by YouthLead, Y-PEER, and RHRN, along with all of the supporting stakeholders, also join hands to welcome all of you. This youth forum has been consistently organized since 2017 ahead of the Asia Pacific Forum on Sustainable Development, which is a follow-up and review process of the SDGs at the Asia Pacific regional level, and has taken another step to integrate the annual ECOSOC regional forum discussions. Asia and the Pacific is home to more than 750 million young people who face a broad range of intersecting challenges. Young people come in all their diversity, including from poor communities, people of diverse sexual orientation, gender identities, expressions, and sexual characteristics, people with all forms of disabilities, both seen and unseen, people living with and affected by HIV, ethnic minorities and indigenous people, religious minorities, people living in rural, remote areas and slum areas, sex workers, people who use drugs, migrants, displaced refugees and stateless people, people with limited formal education, and people of all castes and classes. We have tried our best to ensure the diversity of the participants in the forum to the extent possible. This year's theme is Building Back Better from COVID-19 while advancing the full implementation of the 2030 Agenda in Asia and young people at the forefront of SDG action. This is really a very apt and timely theme for us all to discuss, because in the past 2 years of the pandemic, what we have seen is very little attention has been given to young people and how your lives are affected by COVID-19. The gaps in access to health services, the gaps in access to education has really been exacerbated. Employment opportunities in an uncertain economic environment is also something that we cannot guarantee. So this is very timely for all of you to actually tell governments, NGOs from the region and all stakeholders, what are your desires? What are your visions? What do you want from the world? Because the SDG agenda was supposed to create that better world for your generation precisely. And thus far, all of us, and I speak on behalf of the older generations, have not done a very good job of delivering this world for all of you. So the most recent SDG progress report shows that, the negative impacts of COVID-19 have been very severe. We are still living, thank you. I see the message saying, good to hear the confession, but it is true. I mean, this cannot be denied. We cannot pretend that we've done a good job in passing over a better world for you. So the impact of COVID-19 has been severe. And at the same time, we are still living in the pandemic. And right now, it looks like this pandemic will continue for at least a few years. So whatever you all have experienced in the first 2 years, this is going to continue. So how do we actually create a more inclusive, more participatory system by which your voices can be heard so that government programs and policies can be reorientated in order to fulfill the needs of young people, right? So what can we do? And this is what you'll be doing for the next 2 to 3 days. You know, more than 600 young people are now gathered from 33 countries, you know, and over the next 3 days, you will ensure, you bear the responsibility of doing justice to that 750 million who live in this region, right? You will ensure young people's voices, their realities and perspectives are meaningfully included in setting, transforming and implementing the regional agenda on sustainable development, with specific reference to the intergovernmental APFSD, ECOSOC Youth Forum and HLPF 2022 processes. You will develop recommendations through the Youth Call to Action, including on building back better from COVID-19, present ways to progress and address gaps and challenges in the implementation of SDGs slated for review this year, including SDG 4, 5, 14, 15, and 17 from a youth lens. The program is also balanced to discuss regional, but also national level sustainable development issues and recommendations, right? Because you are here to learn from each other of what we should be driving our governments to put forth as priorities in their national development plans and the policies that they are creating. On behalf of Arrow, I welcome all of you again and wish you all the very best for the next 3 days, as you all engage in an intense learning, exchange, and advocacy action to further an youth-inclusive, gender-responsive, sustainable development agenda in the region and in your countries. This world is yours. Do not hesitate to seize it.
Thank you, Siva. Thank you very much for that very great inspiration for all of us to get started. And I now invite the other co-convener of this youth forum, which is YouthLead. And on behalf of YouthLead, we have Leji Tamir, who will be providing the welcome remarks. And YouthLead is a regional organization. It's the Asia Pacific network of young key populations, working with young people aged 14 to 30. And over to you, Leji, for your welcome remarks.
Thank you, Sai. That was a very great introduction. So, hi everyone. I believe I'm audible, right? Okay. So, hi everyone. Good morning to all beautiful people and dear young leaders, change makers, and the peace builders. It's really good to see all participants from all different countries across the Asia Pacific region and gathered here to discuss together the building back better from COVID-19 while advancing the full implementation of the 2030 agenda in the Asia and the Pacific with young people at the forefront of SDG actions. So my name is Leji Tamir. I'm a project officer at YouthLead Asia Pacific Regional Network. So let me give you a very brief background of YouthLead. So we work to empower adolescents aged 14 to 18 and young key populations aged between 18 to 30 at the grassroots level from across the Asia Pacific region. Our organization and programs are led and designed and implemented by young people, working for young people. So we embrace each other's differences and celebrate our similarities connected by our values, needs of being young, and our shared passion of ending HIV and AIDS. So our networks is comprised of focal points, network partners, civil society, organization, and networks, stakeholders and donors, and all coming together to advocate for issues that affect our communities. And we want to catalyze of change and to empower young key populations through capacity building, advocacy, and expansion of a partnership between local, national, and the regional young key populations organization. And we want to ensure more meaningful participation and involvement of in all levels of decision-making that impact their lives. And we respect diversities and ensure gender balance in all aspects of our organizational structure and decision-making spaces. This and exactly that our vision and mission aligns to the APFSD Youth Forum as well. And with that backdrop, I would like to warmly welcome to all participants, all speakers, and everyone who's joining us on Facebook Live today. We only have 3 days, and I highly encourage all of you to have a wonderful, memorable days, and as much as productive. Also, please try to expand your knowledge and understanding on sustainable development goals, particular in the COVID-19 pandemic. Also think through the post-pandemic. And I'm confident that each speaker and each and every participant will bring very unique inputs from your most valuable local, national, and the regional level experience and in your community. So wish you all have a very good day, and I'll see you very soon in the first plenary session. Thank you so much, and handing over back.
Thank you, Leji, for another inspirational talk. And now we have Sangeet Kayasta from Y-PEER Asia Pacific to provide the welcome remarks. And Y-PEER Asia Pacific is a regional collective of Y-PEER national networks as well as activists in the Asia and the Pacific region. And they are spread out at the regional and as well as the national level. So over to you, Sangeet.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. So nice to see you all. And also like congratulations for you to be selected, because I think like this year was quite competitive. We had around more than 1,000 youths, and out of 1,000, we selected around 600. So I do remember the first APFSD where I was fortunate enough to be here. So it's since then I have been in all APFSD. So 2017, I remember that though I was quite aware of SDGs, but when I went to the forum, I got to know lots of things. For example, there were new issues which young people were working, which I never knew. For example, there was one person who was talking about food security and SDGs. There was next person talking about climate change SDGs, and there was also intersection like food security and climate change. And there's so many things which I learned on 2017. And since then, I think it's always been a new thing, which I have been learning. And so though I have also seen people who think that they know SDGs, but once you are in this forum, you know that there are so many things which we never heard of, which young people are working. And that's a big thing, which is part of this APFSD Youth Forum. And also, I think fortunate enough, or let's say thanks to COVID-19 in positive way, that in beginning 2017, 2018, 2019, we used to only welcome around 80 to 100 participants, and that was limited, right? Because we could not bring all 600, 500 people on board. But thanks to this online forum, we are now able to bring around 600, sometimes it's more than 600 young people on board. And also the positive thing which I felt very proud to be part of this forum is there is every year we are getting younger and younger person, and you will see in these 3 days that some of our speakers are very young, but very, very hardworking and working on new issues. And also there are people who are very, very experienced in SDGs, whom you can learn a lot during your group sessions and all. And also, what we like to make sure is definitely there are lots of forums happening nowadays, and when you give your point and this point is gone somewhere else, right? Like no one is thinking about that after the forum is over. But we would like to make sure from Arrow, YouthLead and Y-PEER that whatever you talk here, we'll be noting all the points, and what we'll be doing is like previous years, we'll make sure that these valid points, it's reach out to the national governments, regional government, and also different agencies like like UN agencies, UNFPA, UNICEF and all. And also what we'd like to make sure is once this APFSD Youth Forum is over, as you have seen in the emails, there is a main APFSD CSO forum and mini APFSD forum where some of us will join, definitely me and also some of our participants will join there. So we'll make sure that this APFSD Youth Forum outcome document will be reaching out to those government who need to hear us and who are making decisions on behalf of us. And thank you once again for applying. And thank you all the team in Arrow, YouthLead and Y-PEER who work hard for last 2 months to make this happen. Thank you so much.
Invite.
Not audible.
Okay, so now I am very honored to invite Jivitesh Gupta to provide the welcome remarks on behalf of youth participants of the forum today. Jivitesh is a youth leader, an adolescent, and engages with the STEPS Network India, and is a member of the Interagency Working Group on Adolescent Sexual and Reproductive Health. Over to you, Jivitesh.
Thank you, ma'am. Esteemed co-conveners, representatives from various youth networks or youth development organizations, individual delegates, invited guests, and the entire logistics team for this event, a very good morning to one and all. I am delighted to be a part of this August gathering. I also feel very privileged as one of the delegates to have this opportunity to address and welcome this August gathering on the very first session of day 1. This opportunity is very special, symbolic, and significant for us, as I also uniquely represent the very young adolescents, VYAs, from various countries of the Asia-Pacific region. The very young adolescents aged 10 to 14 years are a very underrepresented group, and they have unique needs unlike older adolescents 15 to 19 years and young people aged 15 to 24 years. We all need a conducive platform for advocacy and for ensuring that our voices, our concerns are being taken seriously and acted upon in time. I see this forum providing that platform. We must be considered equal among all stakeholders. Ensure that every youth gets due support in humanitarian crises emanated from natural disasters like pandemics, wars leading to internal or external displacements, etc. We have the right to a safe and secure environment for our growth and development as global citizens. We have a right to quality education, access to timely and affordable healthcare services, including mental health, etc., access to minimum initial service packages missed for sexual and reproductive health in crisis, and access to training and capacity building sessions in skills to cope up with crisis situations, to preserve our mental health and address failures. We need access to rights-based education, including comprehensive sexuality education, CSC, to sensitize us and safeguard us from all forms of abuse. We expect our policymakers to not indulge in any political activities that disturb peace and harmony in our region. We need to be meaningfully engaged in planning, executing, and monitoring processes of all programs and policies meant for us. We need everyone to understand that we are the future of this planet, and hence we deserve due attention and respect in the context of sustainability. Sustainable development must therefore be the focus at all times in anything and everything our governments and policymakers plan or intend to do. We don't want to live in the environment of terror, trauma, pollution, unemployment, and insecurity. We request our governments to ensure a life of peace and harmony for us, to honor our fundamental right to health, right to education, right to dignified living, and also a right to dignified death. We appeal to our governments to foster regional and international partnerships to develop effective strategies for prevention and response to any such pandemics in future, and also take proactive measures to minimize preventable loss of lives. We request for social security, free education, and free legal aid for at least the most vulnerable amongst us, such as orphaned, persons with disabilities, oppressed, refugees, migrants, transgenders or third gender, adolescents, heads of household, victims of human trafficking, sexual abuse, etc. And in return, we promise to honor our fundamental duties as a global citizen in whatever way possible. We also wish that our teachers and parents understand the significance of a sustained meaningful engagement in civic action and early interventions to prevent us from adopting self-harming behaviors, thereby helping us to grow as sensitive, caring, and responsible global leaders in future. All this is possible through dialogue and interactions within and between different stakeholders. In this context, all of you, especially the team of organizers of this annual event, deserves much appreciation for bridging the gap between different stakeholders. APFSD Youth Forum and the Asia and Pacific Regional ECOSOC Youth Forum 2022 are great platforms for the young delegates to contribute to developing the Youth Call to Action 2022 that would eventually feed into High-Level Political Forum 2022. Let us stay committed and look forward to the intended outcomes, impact, and valuable learnings building on diverse perspectives of delegates on building back better from COVID-19 while advancing the full implementation of the 2030 agenda in Asia and the Pacific with young people at the forefront of SDG action. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jivitesh. I think you have inspired us all, not just for these 3 days, but I think for ever that we're all committed to youth action. Thank you, Jivitesh, again. And I thought that was a very great welcome on behalf of all the co-conveners and also, as well as from the youth speaker, Jivitesh. And with that, we will actually be moving into the opening remarks, and I pass on to my colleague, Nas, to take over the moderation. Over to you, Nas.
Thank you, Sai. So now we are moving into the opening segment of today's agenda. In this session, we will hear from a panel of experts on SDG-focused work that has been done in the region to complement national SDG initiatives and to strengthen the monitoring and accountability mechanism within this region. We will also hear from our experts on how the voices of young people have played a crucial role in recent years in the regional review process of the SDGs. With that brief overview, I would now like to invite our first expert, Juliet Braslow, who is an Economic Affairs Officer in the Office of the Executive Secretary at the United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific, also known as ESCAP. She coordinates publications, partnerships, and activities in support of the implementation of the 2030 Agenda in Asia and the Pacific. Within ESCAP, she has also worked in the Space Applications section to support the implementation of the Asia-Pacific Plan of Action on Space Applications for Sustainable Development. Prior to joining ESCAP, Juliet worked in Latin America and also at the Caribbean with UNECLAC, as well as in the sub-Saharan Africa with the International Center for Tropical Agriculture. She holds a Master of Science in Agronomy and Horticulture and a Master of Science in International Agricultural Development. She has over 12 years of experience in sustainable international development and technical assistant in the fields of environmental management, sustainable urban development, and innovative technology applications. And Juliet Braslow will be speaking today on UNESCAP's SDG Partnership Report, among other things. Over to you, Juliet.
Thank you very much. I want to make sure that you can hear me all right.
Yes, we hear you, Juliet.
Great. And then I am sharing my screen. Can you see the presentation?
Not yet. It's not coming.
Is it there?
We haven't seen the screen yet, Juliet.
Share screen. All right. Okay. Can you see it in presentation mode?
Unfortunately, no.
All right, I think I have it set now.
Yeah, we see the screen now.
All right, wonderful. Great. Thank you again. I am very happy to speak to you all today and feeling extremely inspired from the initial words and welcomes. And I am here to talk to you about the Asia Pacific SDG partnership and the report that's coming out to be launched soon at the APFSD. And I want to highlight some of the areas that are relevant to your forum in driving implementation of the 2030 agenda with young people at the forefront for SDG action, and reflect some of the multifaceted challenges that are faced by young people, such as access to education, health, employment, and gender equality, which are some of the themes of this upcoming report. To give a little bit of background, this is a partnership, the SDG partnership between ESCAP, the Asian Development Bank, and the UN Development Program. And for the past 5 years, every year, this partnership has worked together to reflect some of the regional priorities in SDG implementation, and then present this in a report, a thematic report at every APFSD. And there are other activities as well to inspire and hear from people in the region and multi-stakeholder voices. So I'm very happy to share this with you and think about some ways that we can help incorporate more of the youth perspectives in our work and activities. In the past 2 years, these report and most of our work has been focused on the linkages between COVID recovery and attaining the SDGs. So it's very relevant for the theme of this forum. I want to give a little background from last year's report, some of the key messages, because we built upon this analysis and these messages in the upcoming report. The first one is that the COVID pandemic is an asymmetric shock. So it's really reinforced the vulnerabilities that existed before the pandemic hit. And that digitalization, including digital finance, is a powerful force for transforming societies and economies, but needs to be equitable. So we're all here today joined together because of this power of digitalization and our abilities to connect online, but there are still gaps. And the third message is that a renewed regional cooperation with a focus on people and planet is important for the foundation of inclusive, resilient, and sustainable development to ensure that no one is left behind, and additionally that no country is left behind, because countries are experiencing the impacts of COVID in different ways. So building on these messages, the 2022 report, which will be launched at the APFSD on March 28th, it will be launched live on YouTube, so I encourage you all to come and hear more. I can't share all the details today, but I can give you some ideas and look forward to hearing from you as well, how we can incorporate some of the work and examples that you are doing in future activities and reports. One of the key messages is that the pandemic has exacerbated some of those pre-existing vulnerabilities. It's something that we see again and again, and we continue to see as the pandemic continues. That the dynamics of recovery are shaped by many important factors, and we looked across many countries and dove into country case studies and found 6 that really came out as striking and important: vaccination, social protection, digitalization again, the economic structure of a country, environmental risks, and the fiscal space, so the ability to spend and invest by countries. And the third is that urgent policy action is needed in these specific areas: inclusion, so ensuring that there's social protection and quality education for all. And these are 2 important points that the previous speaker just mentioned, and I think will be important in this forum as well. Women's empowerment, so advancing gender equality, and environmental sustainability, really building inclusive and green economies as we build back better. I'm going to present a few of the areas that we pulled out and analyzed in this report that I think will be helpful to help set some of the stage for your discussions as well in the coming days, with the highlights on the SDGs that are under review for this year's APFSD and this year's high-level political forum in July. SDG 4 on education, we've noticed that COVID has reversed progress towards this and accelerated a pre-existing learning crisis where there are many children not in school and the quality of schooling has been deeply fragmented. In some countries, there have been hundreds of days of either full school closure or partial school closure and unequal access to online and hybrid learning. For SDG 5, COVID has aggravated many of the social and economic inequalities that women and girls have long faced, increased care burdens at home, as well as also being at risk for unemployment and in the informal sector as well, hard hit by the impacts of COVID, in addition to increased violence against women and girls. In addition, the COVID has impacted the environment in slightly different ways. Lockdowns gave nature a short-lived respite, a bit of a break, but medical and plastic waste, the single-use plastic, has surged and incredibly affected waterways as well. For a focus on SDG 14, unsustainable fish harvesting has increased, and there has been rising pressure on forests. As many of you know, as we're all very confined to our spaces and countries these days, the lack of tourism and tourist revenue has also impacted the money that's available for investing in protected natural areas. So that affects both life on land and in the water and the ocean. Now, these are the main thematic areas and some of the points I wanted to bring out that I think will be important in your discussions in the following days. And as I mentioned before, there are some key factors in the dynamics of recovery that really influence the ways that countries are experiencing recovery and working towards recovery. Vaccination, of course, is incredibly important, and equal access to vaccination and diagnostics, so tests as well. Having social protections has already been mentioned, really universal social protection, including health, education, unemployment. The digitalization, the role and the way that different countries are able to leverage the infrastructure they have or use digitalization to help improve, for example, social protection programs and the ability to reach more potential beneficiaries. The pre-existing economic structure of countries, how their economies are, and how the impacts of COVID differently affect them. For example, if they're very tourism dependent or agriculturally dependent, and all of the flow of imports and exports and people coming and going and those impacts, as well as the environmental risks, including risks of disasters, so compounding on top of the effects of COVID. Different countries face different level of risks, and fiscal space. So the ability for governments to be able to spend, to manage their debt and find ways to fund their recovery investments. So I think this is an important point as it has been mentioned by the previous speakers, is pushing for the priorities of investments and policies of governments to have a good understanding of what does the fiscal space look like? What are the opportunities for finding this funding for spending on these priorities? In the report, we looked at many practices across countries in the region to promote inclusion and environmentally sustainable recovery. And there are many in the region that have emerged, and youth are key players in these. And I'm sure there are some that will be highlighted, and I'm excited to learn about them during this forum, where we can really raise awareness and the role of youth in these practices. The ambition has to be raised and the scale of these efforts without delay. They're incredibly important to share amongst countries, amongst people, amongst all of the different citizens of the world. And we can't do it without youth, without you, without young people, as this is the world that you will all inherit. And your voice is important and your priorities as well. And so looking at all of these factors and impacts and practices, The focus remains in our analysis is for building forward together to achieve the SDGs is inclusion, that we have to ensure social protection and quality education for all, for you, for the next generation, that women's empowerment is very important to advance gender equality, and environmental sustainability, really building those inclusive green economies. And your ideas, voices, and empowerment are important for making this kind of future happen, putting people and planet at the center of building forward together to achieve the SDGs means putting youth at the center. And youth well-being, which was mentioned previously, participation and empowerment are key drivers of sustainable development. You can be agents of change. And with that, I would like to leave you with the question of how we can incorporate your voices more prominently in future SDG partnership activities and reports. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Juliet, for sharing with us the SDG partnership reports on various themes. And I think your presentation has shown how ESCAP has staged youth perspectives into these reports, key messages from the region, and also in the multifaceted discourses on strategies to build back better from COVID-19. So with that, I would now like to invite Dr. Ricardo Messiano, who is the Sustainable Development Officer in the Office of the Executive Secretary at UNESCAP. He plays a coordination role for the activities related to the implementation of the 2030 Agenda in the Asia and the Pacific, including the regional preparations to the HOPF. Within ESCAP, he has also worked as the Social Affairs Officer and Deputy Secretary of the Commission. Dr. Ricardo has also been part of various UN agencies within the European Commission and has over 20 years of experience in research for development, project management, and international relations focused on SDGs. Over to you, Dr. Ricardo. While we wait for Dr. Ricardo, maybe we can move on to our next expert speaker, Wardarina, who is from the People's Forum Actions and Youth Engagement, APFSD, which stands for the Asia Pacific Regional CSO Engagement Mechanism. Rina works in the Asia Pacific Forum on Women, Law and Development, APWLD, for almost 10 years. And she is currently the Women Constituency Focal and co-chair of the Asia Pacific Regional CSO Engagement Mechanism. And also together with Arrow and several other feminist groups, she acts as the Women's Major Groups organizing partner. Rina, over to you on your talk today on how APRCM has created avenues for youth action at the APFSD People's Forum.
Thank you so much, Nas. I hope you can hear me, everyone. Hello. Hi, everyone. My name is Wardarina, but you can call me Rina. I am originally from Indonesia, and I've been living in Thailand for the past 10 years now in Asia Pacific Forum on Women, Law and Development. So I'm just like what Nas said, like my presentation is mostly about Asia Pacific Regional CSO Engagement Mechanism and what you can expect in the People's Forum and also the APFSD, and then where youth can actually have some opportunities and avenues for advocacy, right? But I also don't want to just, focus on the APFSD and People's Forum, because as we know that we see this 2030 agenda process is a year-long process, right? It's not only like based on the events, right? So that's why I'm also going to actually see some milestone on what is going to happen from now until the high-level political forum, and then what are the entry points that you can actually work together also with APRCM to be involved in that kind of events and activities. So I'm going to share my screen. I hope that you can see it right now. Can you see it?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you so much. All right, so now I'm going to start. So in relation with the youth engagement and advocacy arenas on sustainable development, first of all, maybe I would like to give like some kind of introduction on what is Asia Pacific Regional CSO Engagement Mechanism, right? So it is actually a platform, yeah, that is initiated, driven and owned by civil society, although in our making, we actually work together with different UN agencies. There's UNEP also, and then there's a big also thank you for UNESCO, who have been facilitating the conversation about the need to have a regional platform for civil society engagement mechanism, right? So it is an open, inclusive, and flexible civil society platform in Asia, and then really the niche is to reach the broadest number of civil societies, people's movement and social movement, and to harness the voice of the grassroots and the people's movement to advance development justice. So I want to actually highlight here on the grassroots and marginalized groups, and then also people's movement who are often, you know, in a way that is not in the discussion of the Sustainable Development Goals. And then, yes, and then why we felt that the APRSM is important. That time when we are discussing, you know, about APRSM, we felt really the need to have a regional CSO engagement mechanism that is Southern based, that is really highlighting the voices of the peoples of the Global South. We see a lot of gap between the national level and local level engagement on 2030 agenda with the global level process. There sometimes it's not even related. So we felt that the regional process is very important, yeah, and then it's become a bridge, because we felt that, you know, the regional process is actually give like some proximity, accessibility to more grassroots organization and local organization to come in. And then, you know, it's funny to see that some of this regional process is actually more open than national process, right? Because we have also the issue of shrinking civil society space and et cetera, et cetera. So we wanted to actually have that space where a lot of national level group can come in, share ideas, share experience, have our own collective demands, and et cetera. And then this is why we felt that we need to stop, you know, working in siloed. Women cannot work only alone. Youth cannot work only alone. Urban poor, trade union, we need to be together and then be more coordinated, and then also increase our regional solidarity and movement building for development justice. And I've been telling about this development justice on and on. It's actually when we actually built this Asia Pacific Regional CSO engagement mechanism, and then now become the partner of UNESCO to facilitate civil society engagement, we wanted to say that it's not enough to actually ensure that there's a seat, you know, on the table, that we want the seat, but we also need to have the seat with substance. And I'm really happy to hear your opening speakers, you know, like with the youth, and then it's very, very inspiring, because yes, that's what we actually need. What is actually our demand? What is our aspiration? What do we want? It's something that we need to formulate and then push in this kind of arena, right? So that's why we have like this political unity of development justice, a very broad political unity that is actually saying that what we want is actually a model of development that able to reduce inequalities of wealth, power, and resources between countries, between rich and poor within countries, and between men and women and other social groups. This is something that is very, very important for our conversation later on in the People's Forum. And then you will know more about development justice a little bit more in that People's Forum also. Right? And then how do we work for APRSM? So right now we have 17 constituencies. Yeah. When we actually came in, we said that the 9 major group arrangement in the global level, you know, before they have women, they have youth, they have you know, business and industry, they also have farmers and science technology. The global arrangement in relation with sustainable development, we said that time back in 2014, we said there is not enough because it's not reflecting our reality in Asia Pacific, right? So we actually put like youth, children, and adolescents, right? Like we added adolescent there, and then we also add like different constituency that we also want to work with. There's a fisher folk constituency, migrants, people living and affected with HIV, LGBT, urban poor, people displaced by disaster and conflict. There's a social and community enterprise. There's a person with disability, older people. We have the newest one right now, Dalits and communities discriminated on work and descent, right? And then, but we also work in the sub-regional grouping. So we have all the 5 sub-region in there, and then we also have thematic working group, which is there. We now have the environment working group, education working group, financing for development, SRHR and gender working group, land and energy working group, and accountability and VNR working group. Yeah, so this is how APRSM work to actually ensure that we able to put our position forward, be consolidated from the region to the global, and then bringing our own grassroots realities, what's happening in the ground. And then this is why we really need to actually have youth coming from diverse constituency to actually also put forward your demands. So what's going to happen in HLPF? You know, this is the theme. Yeah, there's a building back better from the coronavirus disease while advancing the full implementation of 2030 agenda for sustainable development. If you think this title is long, it's not, because last year is longer than this. Actually, it's a little bit more longer than this. And this year is actually going to happen in hybrid format. And then we will discuss the goal 4, 5, 14, 15, and 17. And then also we have several countries from Asia Pacific going to present in 2022, which is Philippines, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Tuvalu, Kazakhstan, among others. And then this is what I'm saying about what can we do from now to HLPF, right? Actually, it's not from now, because I'm also putting there's an ECOSOC partnership forum. Sorry, I need to go back. There's an ECOSOC partnership forum that happened in February that we also engage. This is something kind of reinvigorate coming from the HLPF reform last year. And then this is something that the youth can also participate. Yeah. And then the second one is we're APRSM doing like knowledge production. We have some fact sheets. Yeah, that is we're doing from all the cluster goal. APRSM and also the APRSM youth constituency organize this youth forum together, and then we're going to have a people's forum in the next days, right? And then in Tuesday until Thursday, and then we're going to have the APFSD, and after that, coming from our statement from the People's Forum, yeah, we're going to actually submit the APRSM position paper to HLPF. There is going to be the official document from the major group, and other stakeholders to the high-level political forum, right? And then also the UN DESA also organized different expert group meetings, yeah, where the youth, the constituencies, the APRSM, indigenous people can actually contribute their inputs. So as you can see there are expert group meeting on SDG 4, SDG 5, SDG 14 and 15. And then also there's one on the interlinkages, which is talk mostly about 17. And then the most urgent now that is going to happen is SDG 5, which is going to happen on the 26th until 27 April. Right, and then we are going to prepare for that, and then let's wait for APRSM also is trying to come up with some collective position for our voices there. So whoever going to this EGM is going to bring our collective voice. And then what's going to happen? We are also in the midst of April and May and June. We're going to prepare for the HLPF. Usually they open a selection of speaker in the formal session of the HLPF, where youth can also be one of the speaker from APRSM or from youth major group, or from the indigenous people, we really need to strategize around this. We also need to prepare our CSO statement for the pre-VNR countries. So don't forget about that, because right now, if you're coming from Philippines, if you're coming from Pakistan, if you're coming from Sri Lanka, then there's a chance for you to actually work together already to make a statement and ask questions to the government that's going to present in the next VNR session. And then that process is actually already starting now. And then, of course, in the high-level political forum, you have side events, meeting with member states, and then you will be able to deliver interventions on the themes, and then also in relation with your VNR. Okay, so this is just a call for expression from the interest. So I'm going to just send it later on. If you are from Pakistan, Tuvalu, and then also Sri Lanka, Kazakhstan, and Philippines, you can fill in that survey, and then we immediately going to include you in the discussion in relation with building the statement together. Yeah, and then APRSM is actually the coordinator for the VNR process. So what's on the menu for People's Forum? Day one, yeah, we're going to talk about systemic issues. And then when you're talking about systemic issue, we're going to talk about the issue of debt, the issue of vaccine inequity, the issue of financing and fiscal space, the issue of also patriarchy, the issue of militarism and conflict, the issue of land and resource grabbing and climate change. This is the systemic issue that we felt that if the government did not, or the UN is actually not addressing it, we will never going to have a 2030 or SDG ever achieved. Right? So we're going to have that discussion. And then also, we're also going to have a discussion from the grassroots, looking at people's agenda and development justice in the midst of the COVID-19. We're also going to talk about the process of Agenda 2030. What are the challenges and barriers? We know that there are several processes fit into Agenda 2030, such as financing for development process, UNEA process. Where are they? Is it coherent? Are we going to actually discuss about it? Because we need to be not siloed, like Sanjit say, right? We need to see the intersection of the issue. So day two, we're going to have a common kind of consolidated our position, have like breakout groups talking about different cluster goals, where this is the part where we really need you to actually put your demands in each of that goal. So it's very, very important. And then in day two, we're also going to have a monitoring and accountability at the national level and VNR, where we actually talk about VNR and shadow reporting. Day three is full day workshop. So it's starting from 10:30 until 6 p.m. We have 3 slots of workshops. And then I know that I saw some youth workshop. There are 2, I think. Some youth workshop there. And then it's really good that you can also join the other workshop. I'm going to send you later on the full program on this and also this presentation. So if you hover this link, you can immediately go to the program. Day 4, we're going to talk about how are we going to arrange ourselves for the APFSD, right? So we know that in the APFSD, we cannot speak on behalf of just our own organization or our own individual. It needs to be a collective position coming from different constituencies. So youth constituency need to make their own statement, consolidated, and then actually push for your speaker to be able to speak in different sessions. And then this is the last slide, I promise. I'm really sorry if I a little bit over the time. The last slide is on the ESCAP, APFSD, sorry, in 2022. We have day 1, the opening, and then this is what it looked like. And then we have some regional analysis on the building back better from the COVID-19. So looking at the regional trends, and then review of the progress. And then ASCAP is also have something on the UN system-wide. Just to let you know, in each of these panel, the civil society can make an intervention. Yeah, so we're going to arrange that later on in the People's Forum. Day 2 is a roundtable discussion. So we're going to break into groups. The one in the goal 17 will be, I think, one group, and then, but they're going to actually have a parallel on different goals. So you need to actually choose which goal that you want to, right? And then based from your statement from the Youth Forum and People's Forum, you can actually put forward recommendation. Yeah, this is a very best practice of regional forum Asia Pacific, because now other, I think, in other region they have these roundtables. Day 3 is the report back, and then the sub-regional approaches and the PNR. And then this is also the time we can actually push forward from sub-regional perspective. Yeah, so if the youth have something on sub-regional perspective, please also formulate that in your youth forum. And day 4, we have a youth event, and then also review and adoption of the draft report and the closing. So I think I'm done with my presentation. Thank you so much, and I'm looking forward if there's any question that you asking. Over to you, Nas.
Thank you so much, Reena. Yes, there will be a question answer session at the end. But thank you so much for sharing with us the various avenues of engagement and also the role that young people can play in the voluntary national review process. And I think what you discussed on the importance of bridging the national level process of the 2030 SDG agenda with the global level, and also the importance of development justice in reducing inequalities. I hope that's taken up during the dialogue for youth action that we have set aside for today, as well as for the next 2 days. With that, I would like to move on to our previous speaker, whom I've already introduced, Dr. Ricardo. Dr. Ricardo, thank you so much for joining us. I have already read your bio. So I would now like to invite you to present on the ECOSOC Youth Forum. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sai, and thank you so much, everyone. It's such a pleasure and an honor to be with you today. This is when we talk about the follow-up and review of the 2030 agenda and the Sustainable Development Goals. When it comes to toward the end of March, we always have a very nice connection. It's like a flow, which starts and begins with the Youth Forum, and then proceeds into the People's Forum, and culminates with the Asia Pacific Forum on Sustainable Development. Let me, before I dwell a little bit on the ECOSOC Youth Forum, let me somehow complete and corroborate what Reena was saying about the APFSD. I'd like to say that whatever you are doing these days and will be done during the People's Forum is really propedeutic, and is a preparation for this APFSD, which is the most important regional forum on sustainable development in Asia and the Pacific. And itself is a forum that prepares for the high-level political forum in New York, which is the global event where everybody, member countries, UN agencies, civil society, youth come together, join forces to discuss about sustainable development and the sustainable development goals. So from the 28th to the 31st of March, we will have our Asia Pacific Forum on Sustainable Development, and as Reena was saying, we will have a thematic review. You know that you all know very well the theme of the APFSD this year and the HLPF, which is recovering from COVID and advancing the 2030 agenda. And then we will have this parallel roundtable. We will have this deep discussion on voluntary national reviews, things that are so important and are so important because they need you also to provide your perspective and to speak up and to let us know how do you really feel about it, and what do we think about it. I don't know if any of you had the chance. There was a launch this week of the Sustainable Development Goals Progress Report for 2021 on 2021, launched this year by ESCAP. So ESCAP every year makes somehow an analysis of what's the status of the Sustainable Development Goals in Asia and the Pacific. And again, and unfortunately, I'm kind of sad to crack a bad news, but we still have some of the goals which are regressing. So instead of advancing, even very slowly, we have two goals, in particular, SDG 13 on climate action and 12 on sustainable consumption and production, which are regressing, meaning that when we started in 2015, we were better off than today. And in other goals, we are really struggling. We do have a couple of goals, which is goal 7 on energy access and goal 8 on innovation, which are going a little bit better, but still for the goals that are performing best, we are still far from where we should be if we ideally follow this roadmap that will lead us to 2030. So what do I want to say? That it is important that we gather, we discuss, and we get all the voices heard on how and what the region can do better to reverse this trend. And at the APFSD, we will have on the 31st in the morning a youth dialogue where there will be some innovators discussing about possible ways and avenues to accelerate the implementation of the SDGs. And we will have, this year at the forum, we have 48 side events confirmed. And some of these, you're probably also part of those, are really focusing on the role of youth and on the role of innovation and what can be done. You are the centerpiece, if you want. You play a pivotal role in the forum and in the follow-up and review. And this leads me, ideally then there is an event which somehow bridges between the APFSD and the HLPF, which is the ECOSOC Youth Forum that will be organized during 19th and 20th of April. And this is probably many of you already participated in the past. And for what concerns our region, we will have a regional session where together with different partners and the Harrow and the co-convenors and lots of UN agencies, because we don't not only have ESCAP, we also have UNICEF, UNESCO, ITC, WFP, UNV. So we have so many partners coming together, join forces to build regional, if you want, consensus and reflection, again, on the theme of the HLPF. What you're doing today is strictly connected to what will happen on 19th, 20th of April, because on 19th, 20th of April, we will have some speakers that might come from this forum. So this is probably also the right moment to identify not only possible speakers for the APFSD, but also who might be in the best position to represent the region at the ECOSOC Youth Forum, where, again, we'll be very concrete. We will have our 1.5 hour discussion based on concrete ideas, concrete innovation. We feel time of talks, time of discussion is probably over. And because it's time of action now, we need to come up with very strong ideas, innovation, things that can really flip the table as our youth innovation event. This is the motto of our youth innovation event at the APFSD. So we really need you, and we are creating space for you because we have this forum, we have the APFSD, we have the ECOSOC Youth Forum. What we can do from our side is creating space, open doors, but then you need to get through this door, and you need to really get us and lead us to the to 2030 and to the implementation of SDGs. I thought I say what I had to say. It's again a great honor and pleasure to be with you today, and I really wish you a great deliberation, great forum, and hope to see you as many as possible at the APFSD in less than 10 days. Over.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ricardo. I think your presentation shows us all the importance of regional youth convenings such as this one in the SDG review process, and how it impacts national level advocacy, but also takes the conversation up to the global level during the high level political forum, for example. So with that, I would now like to move on to our next speaker, who is a youth speaker from Nepal. Her name is Shilpa Lamichan, and she is currently working as a program manager at Visible Impact in Nepal. Shilpa works in the area of social change, mostly focused on sexual and reproductive health and rights of young people. And Shilpa today will be speaking to us about the Nepal APFSD Youth Alliance, also known as NAYA in Nepal. Over to you, Shilpa. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Naz. I hope you can hear me okay.
Yes.
Okay. So, hi everyone from around the world. This is Shilpa from Nepal, and I've been working as a program manager at Visible Impact, which is a youth-led organization in Nepal. And it's great to see such a huge number of young people together here for advancing the full implementation of 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. And today I'll be talking about Nepal APFSD Youth Alliance, as mentioned by Naz. So Nepal APFSD Youth Alliance is a platform created by young individuals and organizations of Nepal who were part of the APFSD Youth Forum 2021. NAYA was created in July 2021, and it envisions young people at the forefront of Agenda 2030 for sustainable development at the national, regional, and international levels. Currently, there are 9 youth-led and serving organizations in the working group of NAYA, with membership about 70 young people in all their diversities. And Visible Impact is currently serving as the secretariat of NAYA. So more young people and organizations we have been working on youth SDGs issues are in the process of joining NAYA, expanding its reach and visibility. And here in this forum as well, I can see many young people from Nepal, and all of you are really welcome to join NAYA for collective efforts in the days to come. So secondly, I would like to talk about NAYA, what NAYA did after APFSD 2021 and before APFSD 2022. Since July 2021, NAYA has been proactively working at the national level to engage young people at the forefront of sustainable development and to link regional and international mechanisms of sustainable development to the national level. So NAYA has been amplifying the key messages, including the issues, recommendations, and youth actions from APFSD Nepal Youth Call to Action 2021 through different social media campaigns, meetings, and high-level dialogues with the key decision makers. And prior to this APFSD Youth Forum 2021 as well, NAYA organized a national youth conclave on 4th of March 2022, providing spaces for diverse young people from all over the Nepal for in-depth review and discussion of the 5 clusters of goals being reviewed this year at APFSD and HLPF 2022. Lastly, talking about the achievements of NAYA so far, NAYA has conducted a high-level dialogue with key government officials of Nepal and have been able to generate commitments from different levels of government, like Ministry of Population and Environment, Ministry of Health and Population, National Planning Commission, and Provincial Planning Commission to engage young people at the forefront of sustainable development in Nepal. And after high-level dialogue, a call to action and summary paper has been developed by Nepal APFSD Youth Alliance, and it has been disseminated with the government officials to hold them accountable for the commitments they have made regarding youth and sustainable development goals. And recently, just before APFSD 2022, NAYA has developed a Nepal's call to action, Nepal's specific call to action for APFSD 2022 that has been derived from the National Youth Conclave as well as provincial level consultations, which we believe will feed into the APFSD and HLPF 2022. So if you're interested to go through the document or want to have a look at it, I'm putting it in the chat. There you go. And yes, so these were some of the things that I wanted to share about NAYA, how it was created by young people and how it has been working in Nepal to link national, regional, and international mechanisms of sustainable development goals. So yeah, I'd like to stop here. Thank you everyone for listening and have a great day.
Thank you so much, Shilpa. I think what you have presented would be a great learning for all of our participants here, because you have explained how NAYA is playing a role in SDG implementation in Nepal that is being led by the young people of Nepal. With that, I would now like to invite Sai Jyotirmay Rachela from Arrow. She is the Deputy Executive Director at Arrow, and she works on sexual and reproductive health and rights, specifically on the sexual and reproductive health and rights of young people. And Sai has been in the lead with the co-conveners in representing Arrow in the spaces that has been created for young people, including this one through the APFSD Youth Forums. And from this experience, Sai today will give us an overview of the progress related to the youth call to actions that has been done over the years as part of the APFSD Youth Forums. Over to you, Sai.
Thank you, Nas. Thus far, we have looked at different opportunities that come to us in terms of the participation at the APFSD, the participation at ECOSOC Forum, the participation at high-level political forum as well. And these are some of the spaces where we can further expand youth engagement and ensure that the outcomes are inclusive of young people. But we also wanted to take you a step back, and then we wanted to share with you what has been the progress thus far with some of the key recommendations that young people have put forward since 2017. The picture I have in front of you is the picture of the youth participants we had in 2017. And if you see in their hands, there are these papers, which is basically the youth call to action that was developed in 2017. And what we will do now is just to see what were those recommendations of 2017 and where are we on a broad scale. We can go to the next slide. So these were some of the call to actions that have been developed since 2017, in 2018, in 2019, in 2021. And in 2021, we had 8 national briefs that were developed. We had 4 sub-regional briefs and 1 whole regional call to action that was actually developed, which are bringing in youth voices. We can go to the next slide. And what I did was try to put together some of the key recommendations that came out of the 2017 call to action, which young people, all of you similarly, who actually developed that call to action with certain recommendations. And I want to highlight some of the recommendations of the 2017 call to action, where you all, young people, called for investment in the education sector with at least 20% of the GDP going into the education sector. You all asked for at least secondary education to be free and higher education to be affordable. You all asked for equitable budget distribution must be taking into consideration the needs of young people who are marginalized, including those from indigenous communities, from rural communities, and those of disabilities. And there are a different set of recommendations that came in for education, including access to technology approaches and promotion of online education that should be accessible to rural and ethnic young people. What I want to say here was that I think these recommendations were already forward-looking. And here you have also asked for online education and technology approaches. And today when we see, although there has been some progress that has been made, but the recent SDG 2022 report actually points out to slow progress in the goal around education. And towards my right, you have these graphs that are actually showing where if you see the bar of 2021, you see that the goal of education is actually very further behind. There is very slow progress that is actually happening. And a lot of work actually needs to be done in order to take the education goal forward. And that is where I think all of us need to come together. Young people need to strategize, see how you will take forward the work around education. And also, I just put a picture of some of the targets within the SDGs, and there are all these different targets. And if you see that yellow bar actually signifies that we will not be able to achieve that goal and that target by 2030 unless we put accelerated efforts. And this is where I think young people, all of you, have to be into action in order to ensure that all these targets that have been set for SDGs, let's accelerate and ensure that they will be implemented. We can go to the next slide. On the goal around gender equality, the previous slide. On the goal around gender equality, empowering women and girls, in 2017, young people actually said that you need comprehensive sexuality education for all young people through formal, informal channels and in workplace settings in order to challenge the gender norms as well as harmful cultural norms and barriers such as child marriage, female genital mutilation, ostracization, shame killing, discrimination during menstruation. So these are some of the harmful and traditional practices that exist in our context, and you wanted to bring an end to all these harmful practices. You also said that they need to institute redress mechanisms that will guard against gender-based violence, physical, sexual, psychosocial, verbal, virtual, including high rates of murder of transgender persons. This was a recommendation that came out from the 2017 call to action. And also you asked for enacting legal provisions to ensure equal citizenship rights by including legal rights of mothers to pass their citizenship to children. There has been some movement around that in Malaysia, definitely. So there are actions that are happening. It is not that it is a very glim picture or a very gloomy picture. There are some efforts that are happening, but at the same time, we are not there. And if you look at the graph on gender equality, again, there is very slow progress. And if you see those gray lines out there on certain targets around gender equality, this means that there is not even data for us to say whether there is progress or not. So the yellow lines are at least saying that we are not going to achieve the goal by 2030 unless we accelerate some actions. But the gray bars are actually saying that there is no data even for us to measure them in a comprehensive manner. We can go to the next slide. And on that next slide, I actually put together climate action, life on land, and life below water together. And some of the key recommendations that you called for in 2017 were around climate-related funds and mechanisms. They should be redirected from false solutions into more sustainable and energy-efficient policies and technologies, and these should benefit young people. You have also said that good practices around how to develop age and gender responsive mitigation and adaptation policies, technologies, and initiatives need to be promoted. You have also asked for advocacy around efficient and use of national and local budgets for climate change and disasters to include transparency, monitoring, evaluation, and effective implementation. So these are some of the recommendations that you put forth in 2017. And at this moment in time around the energy, I think, as Ricardo has also said, there is some progress around energy goal in the region. But however, coming to climate action, you all have to note that there is a reversal of progress. what was set in 2015, we are far behind that. And you see that red graph for climate action. And then around life below water and life on land, you see that there is very minimal progress. And there are many gray lines, and there are also red lines in this whole action. So a lot of responsibility on all young people out there. We can go to the next slide. And this is on partnerships, and around partnerships, in 2017, you've asked for the need to build capacities for young people to meaningfully engage at national, regional, and global SDG implementation. The Youth Forum that you are currently part of is an effort to ensure that all of you come together, you talk together, you have an understanding or learn together about what is it around the SDGs, and you foster your advocacy. So this is an effort that the civil society is doing in collaboration with ESCAP, and we have to say ESCAP has been very supportive of us in order to keep these youth forums going and effective. At the same time, high quality, timely, reliable data disaggregated by income, gender, age, race, ethnicity, citizenship, migratory status, disability, geographic location is what we have asked for in 2017. And there is a lot to do in order to get to data and ensure that data is presented in a disaggregated manner. So what I'm doing now is just to present to you that the road is far, far away. We have all got together in order to ensure that, let's do something in order to ensure that we accelerate our actions moving forward to ensure Agenda 2030 is implemented. And all of you have to be part of this process. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sai, for walking us through the call to action and revealing some really interesting findings from there. So I would now like to open the floor for questions, but in the interest of time, maybe we will take one question and then we can continue the conversation on chat, because there is a very comprehensive plenary session coming up after this. So over to you, if you would like to ask a question. We'll only take one question for now. Okay, I can see two hands. Jitender, do you want to go? Okay.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yes, hi, thank you so much for all the speakers and Sai to give this very amazing and really eye-opening, this entire presentation was really eye-opening because of the way we think about SDGs. One question that I want to quickly ask to all, they can decide who wants to answer that with regards to the time and everything, is that now there are so many intersections that have also come up, like for example, LGBT children in school. How do we sort of tackle these kind of new intersections that are coming up, because there are already challenges in place? And then also, so there is this gloomy picture that have been drawn that there is a lot of work and 2030 is coming really close and we haven't achieved much on that. So what are the ways the youth can also join? So apart from the people who have access to technology and have access to some kind of way to join such conferences and such consultation, but what are the other ways that you would suggest that we engage the other youth which doesn't have access and doesn't even know that such forums exist? How do we reach out to them? And so that, this urgency can be taken really seriously, and, all the youth groups can start building pressure on their own respective governments. So how do we engage those youth who can't be part of these forums? Yeah, thank you.
Would you like to answer?
Yeah, maybe I can respond to that, Jitender. Basically because you are representing 750 million young people of this region is what Siva has said today. So what we want you to be is Be those change agents, be those people who are not only just keeping the information to yourself, but also sharing the information that you have. We have been sharing with you all the reference materials. Today, there has been a lot of information that has been shared. You share with your organizations, you share within your communities, because you're all advocates, you're all activists, and this is how we will ensure that the loop of communication moves on and action is taken. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sayan. Thank you so much, Jitender. I can see there are other hands as well, but as I said, in the interest of time, I'm going to bring this session to a formal close. And I would like to thank all of our expert speakers who have been bringing in important discussions to the Youth Forum. But please continue to ask your questions in the chat, and our expert speakers will be available to answer those questions. With that, I would now like to hand over to Leggy and Momota, who are the co-moderators of the next plenary session. Over to you.
Okay, thank you, Naz. Thanks so much for all the experts that did the opening remarks and for amazing speeches. So, and hi, I'm back again. Now we're starting our plenary session on building back better from COVID-19 while advancing the full implementation of the 2030 agenda in the Asia and the Pacific with young people at the forefront of SDG action. So here we have our amazing Momota as another moderator, and she's also taking care of all that technology. So I really appreciate that. In that session, we have an amazing 7 youth leaders and experts, and they're so much ready to share about their diversities and thoughts on impact of COVID-19, on the ways to build back better from COVID-19, and representing their own or the serving community. So just informing in advance, the session includes a very quick question and answer section at the end. So if any participant have a specific question to our speakers, then please feel free to put in the chat box and make sure to include whose this question is belong to. And also, I hope our speakers will be answering in the chat box as well. So, with that backdrop, I would like to invite our first speaker, youth advocate Mohirtan, and he's the national coordinator at YouthLead Mongolia. He has a deep interest at international development, education, and human rights. And his current line of the work is an NGO, community-based, and includes youth empowerment, media advocacy, and education campaigns with the main aim of combating HIV and AIDS amongst young key population in Mongolia and the Asia Pacific region. So over to you, Mohirtan.
Hello, everybody. It is my honor to represent my community here at the Youth Forum. My name is Mohirtan Dacho. I'm from Mongolia, and I work as the national coordinator at YouthLead Mongolia. And the impact of COVID on my community has been a lot. I think we all can agree that the past 2 years have changed the world and affected every single one of us. But some of us have been affected more than others, for sure. In terms of education, for example, everyone has been forced to shift to online or digital learning. And the issue of inclusive digitalization and quality education for everyone arises here. In terms of income and livelihood, lots of jobs were lost, and for young people especially, to keep being motivated and to have hope for their career or future was really hard. When it comes to social life, a lot of people felt isolated or lonely. And in my circle, for example, civil society organizations and youth networks were only allowed to convene online instead of in person. And it has affected our social life and our place in society a lot. And one of the most important aspects of our lives that was affected by COVID-19 was health and well-being. Mental health problems soared all around the world, especially among young people. And it is again connected to isolation and loneliness. And also some of us have caught COVID-19, which brought post-COVID symptoms and affecting our mental health. And it is connected to all the problems that I mentioned before. And when it comes to physical health, COVID-19 has been a big negative factor on many people's physical health, especially in vulnerable populations. And in my field, for example, a lot of HIV programs were affected in terms of its sustainability or continuity. But thankfully, youth organizations such as YouthLead helped engage young people like us in the decision-making and mitigation of COVID-19. Now, to rebuild our lives back better from COVID-19 and advance the SDGs, it is of utmost importance for us to take the lead and always include our voices in decision-making, because the future is, of course, ours. And I have 6 different recommendations that I would like to mention today. 1, the shift has already happened when it comes to digitalization of education. So we need to ensure digital skills and quality education for everyone and leave nobody behind. 2, as countries began to reopen, new jobs might be created eventually, right? So governments or other organizations really need to support young people and help them regain their motivation and pursue their careers again. And 3, social life is important for every human being, and especially youth-led NGOs or youth networks need to be supported extensively to regain the ability to reach out to as many people as possible in person. And for health programs need to be implemented a lot, especially in terms of destigmatizing mental health issues and raising awareness. And especially in our Asian cultures, we tend to overlook mental health issues or just silence them. And this needs to be changed, in my opinion, because the problem is real, the solution is there, and it just needs to be done. And 5, in terms of physical health, it needs to be promoted. Fitness programs.
Sorry for interrupt. Jessica, please
unmute
yourself.
Nobody behind,
We're gonna hear
especially
you.
those who cannot afford the means to achieve physical health. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mukirte. Thanks for sharing all the mental and physical difficulties that young people are facing at the moment, and the COVID impact and any related issues to the project implementation. And I have a very quick question. So in the chat box there, participants are saying they cannot hear. Hope it works now. Okay, they're saying now it's okay. And apologies for that if that was not really clear. So we have a very limited time and we have amazing speakers that are waiting at the moment. So, but please feel free to message on the chat box if you guys have any question for Mukirte. So he will be answering on there. Then we're moving to another speaker, young feminist advocate, Xavia from Vietnam, and currently she's working as the business development manager at Catalan and a software company, and previously having experience in the renewable energy industry. Okay, I see someone is, okay. And she's interested and very actively working in gender equality since university, and she has her own activism since then. So Xavia, over to you.
Morning, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone, as well. I understand that it's a little bit like lunchtime for you guys and a little bit tired there. So I'm gonna try to, make my session is gonna be more interesting and also share some of the amazing experience with the youth in Vietnam right now. So let me just quickly share my screen here. All right, can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Perfect. All right. So my name is Seva, and right now, besides my full-time job, I'm a head of Youth Advisory Committee of Blind International Vietnam, and also just joining the global influencer youth of the Blind International as well. Besides that, I also support some of the educational opportunities in Vietnam. So I'm going to share with you like what is the impact of the COVID-19 with the youth communities, especially in Vietnam, and how can we overcome that, build a better future after the COVID-19, and some of the recommendation from me to you guys. All right. So the first one, let me just share a little bit on my community there. So you can see like this is the Youth Advisory Committee in Vietnam, and we have around like 20 members in the group, and you can see like a lot of people wearing some of the really special dress code there. So they are mostly from the ethnic group, and they are living in the mountainous area, really far from us. Since we stay in the city and also like collaborate with the rest of the member living in the mountainous area, really far away from us. And before the COVID-19, I could say like last year that the 2021 was a really strange year for us, even like in so many ways. And this is also a really strange year for us, the youth community here as well. So basically before the COVID-19, we have a lot of plan. We're gonna do like a lot of offline activities and also program in our country. But unfortunately, the COVID coming and everything cannot do offline. And the problems here is more about connection, because like in the mountainous area or some of the, in the ethnic group area, they cannot connect to the Wi-Fi, they cannot just communicate to us. And it's make the communication between us and them really, really hard. And we cannot, maintain the relationship even doing the activities there. But how can we overcome that? And also how can we still working on that?
Taking advantage of the algorithm to win hearts and minds.
All right, so I could say like during the COVID-19, the first time we really down for that because we don't have any solution or we don't have, any connection and also don't know how to move forward during the COVID-19. But after that, when we, just boost our energy and also mindset again, we just understand that, okay, this is gonna be the good time for us to take a rest, to review and reflect on activities that we have done. And also, we understand this is going to be the time for us to equip ourselves with all the information, all the knowledge to be better and prepare for the future. So you can see like our youth participation, this is also the chance for us to connect across the country. We have a lot of research and also program together to understand about the situation from each other and also sharing the information to motivate each other. In some of the area, the COVID-19 is not that serious. So we're still trying to have some of the activities, engage with the youth there. And you can find that we also like having a social distancing when doing like these activities and make sure everybody's safe during the COVID-19. And also last but not least, I see that everybody is using this. So we move every activities online and make sure that people can get the information, connect to each other during the COVID. So this is like a little bit example that I want to share here. So in another research that I do with my organization, we have kind of like group discussion and also interview group, and we get everybody on a Zoom call and ask a question and also collect information there. So I just applied it to another concept that is a toolbox. We have a toolkit to everybody learn about gender equality. So I just apply the same way that they are doing with the group interview here. So you understand the gender box that it girls and boys, and people gonna think about the word or adjective that they think about girls and boys. So I move it into the Zoom platform and I ask everybody to use the annotation to work on that session. So basically, like we try to find another way to move everything offline to online and make everybody engaged by that. All right. So last but not least, this is some of the recommendation that I would like to share with you guys. So basically, you can see like a lot of people is to support youth and also organization, government, and also mungkin like in the first session is already shared. But from me, I'm gonna share my recommendation for all of you guys as a youth activist. So the first one is digitalization. It means that you're gonna need to have the adoption to run the information campaigns to raise awareness by the online campaigns and provide a lot of online activities. So this is gonna apply a little bit like transparent skill. You can apply your skill in your work, in your study, to the activities that you are doing with the activism as well. So basically you can learn from each other and also do it online activities and just change the concept there. The second one is to take care of mental health and also physical health. I understand that this is vulnerable at this time and you guys cannot like connect to people as well, but try to, organize some of the group or talking to each other, share about a common situation, and you guys can feel better from that. And the last one is strengthening the resilient anti-fracturity measure with youth, because like after the COVID-19, everybody gonna get back to work, get back to study, maybe like a little bit confused and also nervous at that time. So to make sure that you guys can be more resilient, kind of like trust yourself, love yourself during this time, and after that get better after the COVID. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Xavier. So it was a very incredible speech, and thanks for sharing your experience on Youth Advisory Committee, and then all the recommendations are really nice. And I'm very much agree with that digitalization and then adoption. That's all we really need to know. So if there's any question for Xavier, please leave in the comment section. No comments, in the chat box. So as we're moving forward, we have our third speaker, young LGBTQI advocate from Sri Lanka. From Sri Lanka, Niranjan. And Niranjan is a researcher and a consultant who has been working in the civil society sector for the past 5 years, shredding thematic areas of gender, labor, and peace building in Sri Lanka with intersectional insight. Besides knowledge creation to support civil society advocacy and policy making, interested in archiving human experience of people living in the margins of society. So over to you. We really much appreciate to hear from you.
It is extremely important to note that the political, social, economic, and legal, and cultural climate in Sri Lanka has been challenging towards the LGBTIQ youth, and this challenging nature is now amplified unlike ever before due to the adverse impact of the COVID-19. With these multifold and multiple challenges, LGBTIQ youth who are particularly living on the margins of society seem to be severely affected. For example, trans youth particularly found it extremely difficult to access certain health treatments and medical services during the time of lockdown. So in a similar way, gender diverse persons also found it very unsettling to go to certain local government authorities and officials to collect their
Could you please speak up? It's really hard to hear you.
welfare benefits, because at such places they were often harassed or looked down upon both by officials and other beneficiaries. So there's another adversely affected marginalized group within the LGBTIQ community, trans sex workers. So during the time of lockdown, their livelihood was mostly disturbed, and as a result of that, they couldn't even meet their most basic needs. As we all know, COVID-19 health guidelines were also not really in favor of them. On top of that, various government authorities and especially authorities like police were not very forgiving to them. So at certain factories located in the Katunayaka export processing zone, where many transgender persons work at. So when these workers started showing symptoms of COVID-19, factory administration took it very lightly. Part of the reason was these trans workers are generally, deprived of using sick rooms because these sick rooms are very much gender segregated. So either they are compelled to
Could you speak
use sick rooms, or otherwise
loud,
opt
please?
not to use. They voluntarily opt for not to use these sick rooms. So in this context, when these trans workers were deprived of using sick rooms even when they were showing symptoms, it was at the convenience of factory administration. So much of the adverse impact of COVID-19 on the LGBTIQ youth are manifestations of deep structural inequalities embedded in our society and economy. Therefore, it is essential to make sure necessary policy changes to ensure equity in society. It is equally important to make sure that all communities have equitable opportunities in accessing basic services without facing any discrimination. So in giving recommendations, intersectionality needs to be taken into account very seriously, since certain sects of the LGBTIQ youth are marginalized in multiple ways. As far as sustainable development goals are concerned, these are not isolated thematic goals, and they always tend to overlap and converge with one another, in finding solutions to very critical development related issues in our society. For example, as far as LGBTIQ community is concerned in Sri Lanka, ending poverty and gender equality are very important, and they go hand in hand.
Okay, thank you so much. I think it had some audio problems, which was not really clear to be heard, but our co-conveners just agreed to send the script of the speech to all the participants, and apologize for it. And thank you so much for the speaker and pointing out all the transgender youth problems and the concerns of the trans sex workers, and that's really critical issues that currently we're having in the middle of the pandemic. So I'm handing over to Momota. She'll be moderating.
Hi, this is just to clarify that the speaker, Niranjan, they had a severe power cut in Sri Lanka and cannot be present right now to speak for himself, for themselves. And we will be sharing the script later. Sorry, the video quality was poor. Hope the script will be helpful later for your understanding. Thank you for consideration. Leki, you can continue.
Thanks, Momota. So we're moving forward. I have another 4 amazing speakers. So now I'd like to invite young disability right advocate, Bella Chu from Singapore, and she's a manager of youth initiatives at Special Olympics Asia Pacific. And Bella works to build the capacity of young people with intellectual and developmental disabilities to advocate for disability exclusive development. So prior to Special Olympics, Bella was a social affairs consultant at UNESCAP and graduated with MSc International Development from University of Manchester. So I'm inviting Bella Chu, over to you. Oh, that would be another video, sorry.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for having me here today. I'm Bella from Special Olympics Asia Pacific, and as the manager of youth initiatives, my work aims to build the capacity of young people with and without intellectual and developmental disabilities to lead as advocates for inclusion. Through my work, I have witnessed how COVID-19 has not created, but instead exacerbated the exclusion of youth with intellectual disabilities from social and economic participation. Even before the pandemic hit, isolation from social and employment and opportunities are common experiences for nearly as many as 200 million people with intellectual disabilities around the world. According to UNICEF, adolescents with disabilities are 41% more likely to feel discriminated against and 51% more likely to feel unhappy as compared with their peers without disabilities. We then saw how COVID-19 has disproportionately affected persons with disabilities. When the pandemic first struck, we found that almost half of our athletes with intellectual disabilities did not have enough food. 56% who are of school-going age did not have access to education or remote learning, and 24% did not have a safe place to live. The latest Asia-Pacific SDG Progress Report launched by United Nations ECOSOC just earlier this week revealed that persons with disabilities face difficulties of accessing healthcare, essential services, and faced financial hardship during this pandemic. While technology has provided new opportunities, the digital divide remains a firm barrier. The online environment can be inaccessible and hard to navigate for youth with intellectual disabilities. The lack of accessible, easy-to-read information, low levels of digital literacy, and access to technology prevents us from ensuring that this new normal is an equitable. In order to build back better, we need to make sure that no one is left behind. As we work towards COVID-19 recovery and the 2030 agenda, our policies, programs, and initiatives all need to incorporate a disability inclusive lens. One effective way is to meaningfully involve youth with intellectual and developmental disabilities in these processes. In Special Olympics, we advocate for inclusive leadership, or what we call unified leadership. This means that we value the contributions and skills of youth with intellectual disabilities. We provide accessible opportunities and resources for them to participate meaningfully, and most importantly, we let them lead. Across 35 of our country programs in our region, as well as around the world, young people with and without intellectual disabilities work, learn, and play together through inclusive sports, schools, and leadership development opportunities, and all of these have proved to help shape inclusive mindsets. With 15% of our global population living with a disability, we will not be able to achieve the SDGs by 2030 if we do not fulfill the rights of persons with disabilities and involve them as active agents of change. I believe the way forward is one that is both disability inclusive and youth-led. And I look forward to having you join us in our mission to advance an inclusive, sustainable development agenda. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Belache. That was a very incredible. And I really like this one. Everyone is engaged and actively agent as to change, and no one should be left behind. And we should promote disability inclusivity. So it's all were super incredible recommendations. And if there's any question for Belache, please feel free to put in a chat box. And I just need to claim that we do not have any official WhatsApp group or Facebook group created by co-convenors or the organizing team. So if you guys are joining any groups, then it's not official. Also, it's not our responsibility. So please not enter any group for any communication. Okay, thank you. So we're moving. Okay. Okay, so we're moving to our next speaker, young migrant and refugee advocate from India, Jigayasa, and she's a peace practitioner who believes in the potential of youth and community-led solutions and has been working with the various local and international organization networks towards youth and peace building, gender education and gender equality. And she has developed and contributed to multiple ground projects, initiatives aimed at community empowerment, working mainly with communities such as refugees, migrant workers, and women. So I'd like to invite Jigayasa, over to you.
Thank you so much, Liji, and I hope I'm audible enough to everyone.
Yes, directly.
Thank you so much. And I would like to, first of all, thanks APFSD and the entire organizing team for inviting me and giving me this opportunity to be a part of this global platform and to share my experience and suggestions around SDGs, and especially with regards to the refugee and migrant community. So before we start understanding about refugees and migrants community, it's important that we understand what was the situation pre-pandemic. So the refugees that I worked with, specifically Rohingya refugees and Afghans, we have seen that many of them lack proper documentation, livelihood opportunities, security, and services like education and others, which ultimately leads to many other problems. For instance, inter-community relations are worsening among them, or simply domestic violence, and specifically mental health conditions. And specifically whatever happened in Afghanistan recently, mental health conditions worsening among the community drastically. So and now we need to understand among all these different things, we are facing another challenge, and that is COVID. So during the pandemic, the first thing was the restrictions on movement itself, and that just confined the entire community into the limited zones that they were living in. Someone living in small areas and someone living in refugee camps. So these are the situations happening. And at the same time, the major hit was their livelihood, because now they just cannot go out to earn the livelihood. So one of the good things that we have seen is that many local organizations and even local residents, they came together and they joined hands to provide them with the immediate support that they need, and specifically food and hygiene. So this actually provided them with all the necessary items that they require. But at the same time, there are certain other things we need to understand and observe the entire intervention. So since these things became primary needs like hygiene and other food related items, and at the same time we didn't have the exact data of what the community exactly needs, so ultimately it led to the replication, or I say duplication of efforts. So now every organization is providing or just focusing on certain things, so it ultimately led to many other needs unaddressed. So for instance, education and mental health conditions. So at the same time, we need to understand when we are talking about education in an area like a fragile state, like a refugee camp, education could mean something much beyond that just gaining skills or knowledge. For the children who are living in such scenarios, Education could provide them such as a hope towards a better future and escape from their present reality. So at the same time, we are seeing that the education is not there because people are not able to like visit the field itself to like provide education. At the same time, we cannot go for e-learning because there is no internet or the required devices. So this is how the entire intervention, even though it was focusing and helping the community in one sense, on the other hand, there were certain things that completely left unaddressed for a very, very long time. But there are certain best practices that I personally observed and that help a lot. One of the things is whenever we are working with the community is never see them just as beneficiaries. They know what they need and how to work with the community. Try to identify the existing capacities and capabilities and grow those things. Secondly, include youth from all backgrounds. Just because they are refugees or something else, it doesn't mean that they don't know anything. They are the most innovative and energetic youth that you can actually find, and they know how to build solutions. They generally leave no one behind. It comes straight here. Thirdly, lack of resources. We all know that we all need more resources, but sometimes it actually helps us to build more creative solutions. And this is what we have seen during the entire COVID scenario, that how various new things came up from youth. So for instance, in India, there were many young youth groups who tried to build new digital platforms, like providing information regarding the availability of beds and other things. So always try to be more creative. This is something that really helped. So in terms of recommendations, I would like to offer a few, and again, it's coming from the ground experience that I have seen. As this is something for all the people who are working with communities that always aim to build a program or a project in which the community has 100% ownership. You are there to support them to build the project, but after a point of time, after a specific period of time, you should always aim to leave the project and let the community take the entire project on their own. At the same time, as I just mentioned, lack of resources could help with creativity, but at the same time, we also need sustained source of funding with us. It helps us to meet challenges, the unforeseen circumstances that might come up anytime in the project, as well as to adopt innovation and timely innovation. So sustained funding is imperative. Thirdly, as I mentioned, young entrepreneurs. There were many young youth-led initiatives that came up. I think there's a need, and I really believe it will really help to support these young entrepreneurs to take this much forward. We need to have more contextualized and localized data. And one of the best mechanisms that I have personally seen, I have been working on, is youth participatory action research. It's the best way to build a gap between the researcher and practitioners. So have more localized data, to have more effective interventions. And lastly, I don't think I need to say this and emphasize this, but as the need requires, we the youth have proved ourselves enough. We have multiple studies, we have multiple frameworks, 2250, IISc Youth Guidelines, and many others. We now just need to be listened, and we need these frameworks to be implemented effectively by all the relevant stakeholders. So we have heard a lot that yes, youth are the present, youth are the future, but we also need to understand that youth are the bridge between the two, the future as well as the present. So let us be on the decision-making table. Let us lead. Let us be the change. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ikara. It was a very incredible, and I need to point out again that sorry. I need to point out that again, that lack of data is a very, very big problem for each and every community. And we heard a lot that education and the hunger problems and all the problems are still existing in the migrant and refugee communities. And as you said, that not only speaking, but also effective implementation is a crucial at the moment. So I believe the people who need to be heard, it's already been heard. And thanks for your hard work and keep working on it. And that was very incredible. And keep it up with us. We might have a question for you from our audience. Okay, with that, we are moving to our next speaker, the adolescents advocate, Ahmad Nisar, and he's from Afghanistan. He's the founder of Ahmad Nisar's Literacy Center from Afghanistan, and he's running a grassroots youth-led organization focusing on sexual rights, literacy, and the role of alleviating of the violence. So I'm inviting Ahmad right now, and over to you.
Thank you so much for the introduction, and thank you to the organizers of the program for creating such a platform where we can network and share. So I'm just going to start with my speech. As of 2022, COVID-19 has taken the lives of 6 million people globally, but its impact on the society shocks us all. With 258 million adolescents being out of school already, an additional 1 billion adolescents are at risk of falling behind from education. Although 90% of countries adopted remote learning policies, only 1 in 4 countries were able to benefit from it. These are global statistics, but for low to middle income countries like Afghanistan, where only 35% of the population have access to electricity, getting education remains a distant dream. Even those who get connected face massive barriers due to power cuts, low internet connectivity, and lack of resources. However, schools lack the budget to use advanced mediums for education. Therefore, students have to succumb to it. Almost every school in my country couldn't afford adopting a digital learning platform. Sanaullah, who studies in 8th grade, told me that he got a promotion to a higher grade without understanding a single word from the textbooks in his current grade. Teachers all over the country assisted students by giving a set of questions to be memorized on the day of the exam, which clearly isn't equal to learning the textbooks year-round. Additionally, his circumstances in no way allow him to connect to the internet, as that's the cost of his monthly house expenses. Sadaf, who's a student in Kabul University, told me that she barely learned anything from the substandardized education mediums that's far away from delivering quality education. She fears that after graduating, she might not possess the necessary skills to proficiently do a job. This weakens the workforce and, in the long term, the economy. But did you know, in 2018 alone, the estimated loss to the economy simply from women and adolescents not benefiting from school is estimated to range between $15 to $30 trillion. On the other hand, the impediments are doubled with the cross-sections of wealth and gender. And in this sense, girls' conditions are worse off. With the approach of the pandemic, newborn girls as young as 20 days are arranged for a marriage in return for dowry. Now that schools are closed, adolescents who get married at an early age won't possess the vital information about contraception or maternal and newborn health. This is further exacerbated by the poor mental health they face as a result of increasing labor, domestic violence, and life stresses in their lives that impairs their working and living ability. Services are increasingly demanded, but substantially low or even non-existent. The world is divided into 2 parts, the visible and the invisible. Regrettably, the invisible belongs to low to middle income countries, and attention is failing to accommodate their needs. However, a ray of hope still exists. COVID-19 gives us a chance to look at how far we have come, what have we missed, and what needs to be done. The first step begins with reviewing our policies and asking ourselves if they are youth-friendly and inclusive of the historically marginalized population. Secondly, there is an urgent need for implementing programs that caters to the needs of adolescents. Being an adolescent myself, my important mission is to get the quality education that I deserve and be facilitated with the necessary resources for doing it. That includes access to the internet and devices for securing a connection. The benefit? With every additional year of schooling, adolescents' future earning increases by 10 to 20%. With the approach of the pandemic, we know that digital learning enables education by overcoming barriers like transportation or infrastructure. It also glimpses into remote learning that can create interactive learning environments and end the cycle of illiteracy while giving flexibility to people, particularly people with a disability, women, and young people in conflict zones, and teenage mothers, to name a few. However, we must ensure that everyone has the digital accessibility that allows us the digital accessibility and literacy to benefit from it, so that our world doesn't divide into two unequal parts again. This time also allows us to review our education curriculums and ask ourselves, are they protecting adolescents from possible challenges they might face? Are they equipping adolescents with the information to look after their sexual health and protect themselves from harmful practices? Lastly, are they comprising the social and cognitive skills to ensure adolescents can look after their mental health? These questions need detailed answers and a concrete action plan to heed the shortfalls. As an activist, I know this takes time and commitment, but we need appropriate budget allocation, a skilled workforce, and most importantly, the inclusion of young people in these milestones, as they are the experts of their own expertise and they play an essential role in realizing the Sustainable Development Goals. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ahmad. I can't thank more than that for your recommendation. They're so amazing. And thanks for mentioning that there we still have some problems on accessing the electricities, accessing the education, quality of education, and all the adolescents are having some kind of financial troubles. And also thanks for bringing out all the amazing examples that are existing at the moment. I really appreciate that. So if there's any question, please put in the chat box. I believe Ahmad will answer in the chat box too. So we're running out of time. And I'd like to invite our last speaker, the climate action advocate, Palawish Kumar, and he's from Fiji. He's the founder of Y4CAP, European Climate Pact Ambassador for European Union. And currently he's working for Ministry of Youth and Sport as Youth and Sport Officer and looking after climate change and youth development projects and in charge of whole Lao group in Fiji. So over to you, Palawish. Yes.
Hi, Bula. Hope I'm audible.
You are, yeah. Loud and clear.
Sound check. Audible. Can you see my video?
Unfortunately, no. We only can hear you.
Okay, great. Sorry about that. Thank you very much, Bula, from the beautiful islands of Fiji. So I think there are some technical issues because currently we are can you hear me now? Great. So thank you very much, Bula, from the beautiful islands of Fiji. My name is Palawish Kumar. As you guys have seen my introduction, I'm from Fiji Islands. I look after climate change and youth development projects. So in terms of COVID-19, I'll be very fast with this. Because currently I'm based in Lakemba for 4 years and looking after all the climate change projects and youth development projects. And currently, because of the adverse weather, we're facing some sea level rise and we are evacuating some people to higher ground. I'll show you the videos, I'll show you the photos after this. So COVID-19 is the, well, I can say it was a global health issue or emergency, and its economy and social impacts have disrupted nearly all aspects of life for all group in society, people of different age. However, the experiencing it's currently in Lakem, and especially for the vulnerable youths, right? COVID-19 crisis for
I think, Palavish, we cannot hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, okay.
Sorry about that. For the young people and especially for the vulnerable youths, the COVID-19 crisis possesses a considerable risk in field of education, employment, income, health, disposable income earning. Moreover, while the youths and future is our generation and they are the leaders, they are the elders of tomorrow. So there are some of the issues that possesses, rather I would say, in terms of COVID-19. In Fiji over here, COVID-19 has been a drastic turn over here, because during COVID-19, our schools, our communities, they were all closed. Schools were closed for over 8 months. And that is a part of SDG 4 that I would like to highlight. You know, the aspects of school and universities has affected more than 1.0 youths worldwide, has been significantly changed how youths and children live and learn during this pandemic. Moreover, the recommendations, or rather I would say how we can build better, from now is we need to engage youths in decision making. We need to integrate sustainable agriculture, fisheries, because most of the Asia Pacific region, we live, our economic source is from fisheries, our economic source is from sustainable agriculture. And at this very moment, let me just show you, I'm wearing a raincoat actually this moment, because I was evacuating people outside. So this is, okay, so this is how it looks like currently. It's raining.
Yeah, I think.
I'm sorry, someone just, I just muted all the time. Sorry about that. So currently I'm outside. The water level is reaching my knee now, and COVID-19 just pulls it in, just makes it more worse. It just keeps on rising, the income. I'm talking about the income. And youths, when they go for fishing, when they do agriculture, they have to sell that in higher price. So economy becomes one of the issue over here. And the recommendations that I would like to suggest is we should integrate more into wet system, should integrate more agriculture, sustainable agriculture, sustainable fishing styles, fisheries, and ensure that early warning system reaches the most vulnerable communities in remote location, as these will suffer the greatest damage. Promote community-based adaptation, or rather approaches, and nature-based solutions. For instance, during COVID-19, before COVID-19 rather, people, they did not do home gardening, they did not do farming. So now they're practicing it in. So my recommendation for it would be, let's work towards it. Let's build an existing social protection. Let's integrate climate resilient construction, water management, home gardening, and climate resilience work in education. Because together we can. And it's not about the elders, it's all about the youths. Because youths, as I mentioned earlier, they're not the leaders, they are the elders of tomorrow. They'll be making the decisions. So we should
Okay.
As a civil servant, I work for and youth development officer. We need to.
Thank you, Palavish. Thank you so much. I know you have an internet connection problem, and thanks for mentioning all the problems and trying to show us the current situation. Thanks for your creativity, and I believe all of participants are understanding that. And for your recommendation that building sustainable economic system, social protection, that's very incredible. We really appreciate your input there. So unfortunately, we are running out of time, and I see in the chat box a lot of questions, and our speakers are answering very actively one by one. But there are one questions that asked repeatedly, that how we can reach to the young people who are living in the remote areas. So I believe this question is for young feminist advocate who's been recommending that adoption and then digitalization. So Xavier, would you mind to give us a very brief answer that because this question is asked like many times, 5-6 times. So Xavier, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, would you mind to answer that? What's the best practice to reach out young people who's living in the remote areas? What's your experience there?
Yeah, so right now, like in the team, in the group that we have, some of the people is living in city and some of the people living in the mountainous area. So to make sure that we can have the great collaboration between these area. So for the cities members, we try to work on the paperwork, work on some of the budget, and also some of the things that we have to do with the computer, with the laptop, and we try to make the clear instruction with all the team member in the mountainous area to make sure that they not struggle with any technology or internet access there. So basically, we're gonna connect them with the phone, with our internet connection, and clear instruction what they need to do. And also I think like in the area, mountainous area, beside the youth activists, we also have the government and also some of the organizational members. There is also the resources for you to reach out for help as well. So basically our ideal world is going to be internet access for everywhere. But right now, because of the COVID-19, and also we cannot solve that problem yet in the short term. So we're gonna need to, try to avoid some of the legacy work and also paperwork, anything that we can help with the mountainous area people. And the other things that I think is in our group, we have a structure with one-on-one. It means that one member in the city and one member in the mountainous area, they're gonna have a couples together. And whenever we assign the task together, we're gonna assign the group, like the small group like that. So like one member is here can really support it to the mountainous area as well. So this is gonna be a really great structure for people to get to know each other and also supportive to each other.
Yeah, thank you, Xavier. That's actually very true. I can't agree more. So it's actually internet access should be equal to everyone, but unfortunately it's not the really ideal world. So that's why we're here. That's why we're gathered. That's why we're providing providing a lot of recommendation from the different aspects. And thank you so much, everyone. Thanks all our speakers. In this plenary session, we were trying to be inclusive and to include different speakers from the different countries, the different areas, and also maybe just cause a little bit internet connection problems. So I hope everyone will understand it. And thank you, Momota, for our moderator taking care of all technology and sharing the slides and then videos. And I guess I need to wrap up this plenary session at this point. And if still participants have any question to our speakers, put in the chat box. And I believe my speakers are kind enough to answer in the chat box too. So sorry for taking 3 extra minutes from my session. And we're gonna have a lunch break for a 30-minute, but now we will have a 26-minute lunch break. So I'll let you go for a lunch break, and we'll see you again in 2 p.m. Bangkok time. You guys just turn off your camera and unmute yourself and come back by 2 p.m. Bangkok time. And we have a more another interesting sections and interesting speakers. So see you, and until there, have a good lunch. Bye everyone for 30 minutes.
हामीलाई के नमजा आउला कस्तो होला होला भनेर नि इमोसन आउँदैन के घरले बिजाउँछ नि पनि केही नि हुँदैन होला त्यो गर्नु
Passport bang Dila. Kau pilih lah.